You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
The crap that was thrown at him at the beginning of the year, and they polished a turd, and they made this season a success.
I haven't heard polished a turd in so long.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
Now they have to kick it out, and they do!
Every week, Travis Currah.
Does anybody still care about this podcast?
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people, too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Are you kidding? This is unbelievable!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. I'm Travis Currah with Brazilian Ty. It's only, I don't even know if it's been 2 weeks since the Grey Cup, but I already feel like I've kind of forgotten how to do this thing. You did say on Twitter, we call it in the business a tease. You've got another hot take on food. What say you?
Turkey is overrated. And it might be bottom of the list when it comes to meat.
Well, I'm trying to think what I would put it above.
Chicken? No. Steak or beef of any kind? Definitely better. Pig, because it literally is the most versatile of all the animals.
Better.
Fish? Better.
Okay, maybe we've got a conversation there.
No. Salmon is 100 times better than turkey. Now, I'm not saying I don't like turkey. I'll eat it. I like it, especially on a bun with butter and salt.
But, when are you getting that tattoo? Butter and salt.
Just a big B-Cell logo on my left bicep.
There's a new bet for 2020.
But, it's not the end-all be-all when it comes to Christmas supper or Thanksgiving supper. Ham and scalloped potatoes is way better than turkey. Let's just be honest.
Now, your culinary hero is either Ronnie Mack or the Burger King. My culinary hero
is Popeyes.
Well, there's that. But Alton Brown's my guy, and I actually just watched the Good Eats.
Oh, I love Good Eats.
Oh, I just watched one on turkey. And the problem with turkey is that we roast the whole thing, the drumstick, the breasts. It all needs different type of cooking, but we all cook it at once. It dries the heck out of it.
And it's dry as all hell.
We've taken
and me not liking gravy doesn't help.
That does not help. We've taken the food discussion to an entirely new level. We're getting deep.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. But if we're being if we're being honest, breakfast sausages are better than bacon.
Okay, now this is crazy. Okay, it depends. If I'm at a restaurant, I will probably take the breakfast sausage over the bacon because they overcook the bacon. My bacon, 100%. I don't know about you, needs some flop to it.
Oh yeah, it can't be super crispy.
Yeah, so if it
needs to be a little. I don't want to use the word I was going to use. I stopped myself.
Starts with an F and an L.
Yeah,
and not flop.
No, I missed that reference, a floppy reference on a text message last night, and I still haven't been able to live it down. But it has to be chewy. It has to be more chewy than it does crispy.
Yeah, and then there's a conversation.
But the way I look at it though is that breakfast sausage, bacon is like James Neal. Right? It's pretty good on its own. But without a superstar like Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl driving the train, which would be the breakfast sausage, it's not as good.
Holy crap, I'm just getting into this thing.
In the Huddle with Currah and Ty on the Two and Out podcast.
You were kind of worried the other day that we wouldn't be able to go for an hour. I'm thinking we're going to have trouble keeping this under an hour.
Well, I'm going to have to use skip the dishes to get supper because I'm not going to want to leave the house in an hour's time.
What kind of options are you looking at?
Let's be honest, there's one option I'm looking at.
Burger King?
And it's nuggets. And it's nuggets from Burger King, yes.
Okay, we haven't talked since really the Bomber Grey Cup celebrations took off. And Chris Streveler is the man of the hour, is he not?
How is he that jacked after the season?
Man, he probably cleans up.
You think?
He's still limping around. They were at the Jets game on Tuesday. He limped on the ice. Him, Harris, Dembski dropped the puck. Props to Winnipeg. I was listening to the coaches show that Bob Irving does with Mike O'Shea, and they did a 2-hour version the day after the game, and they opened up the phone lines, and the emotion that you could hear in the voices of the fans calling in, thinking about, it's not on the level of the Chicago Cubs drought, but everybody thinking about their fathers or their grandfathers or whoever that they would have liked to have celebrated the championship with that aren't with us anymore. And good for Winnipeg. That's all I got to say. Because these celebrations, I feel like they match the drought. Some people are offended by Streveler. Whatever. I think he's a 24-year-old guy. I can't say that I would have handled it any differently if I won a Grey Cup at 24.
I'm 31, and I was at the lake drinking my face off August long weekend with no shirt on. So I can't judge Chris Streveler.
And they are on pace to sell the most Grey Cup champion merchandise ever. The Riders did $1.9 million worth in 2013, and the Bombers, they could sail past $2 million here, and that is awesome.
That's nuts. Like that to sell that much, and I know that it's been 29 years.
Yeah.
But to sell $2 million worth of merch is just astounding.
Now, the CFL announced the Wednesday after the Grey Cup, the League All-Stars, 27 of them selected by 49 voters. They're members of the Football Reporters of Canada. Also, the league's head coaches voted in this as well. And no Andrew Harris at running back, the league's leading rusher. I hate to keep beating the dead horse there, but it just stands out.
Well, it definitely does. And no slight against William Stanback.
Right.
He had a really good year, but Andrew Harris, we get it. People, the Winnipeg media didn't give him an MOC nod or an MOP nod when it came to league awards, and now he's getting this. I guess you could call it. I would call it a snub. I mean, as the leading rusher, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that he is going to be your running back all-star. Yeah. Wins MOC and MOP at the Grey Cup. Like, I love William Stanback. Montreal had a hell of a year, but there's no way Andrew Harris should not be on this list.
I kind of want to see how close the votes were. Like how much Stanback edged him out by. But I look at that receiving core on the All-Star list and I think, holy crap, Brandon Banks, who needs surgery, basically two of them, to repair a hernia and also get that plate out of his shoulder. Reggie Bagleton, Brian Burnham, Shaq Evans, and Braylon Addison. We've got some good receivers in this league, man.
And it helps that it's a passing league, but we've always looked at it as a quarterback league. And the last couple of years, the emergence of Banks finally getting to play. Brian Burnham, probably the best pure receiver in the CFL now. Don't get me wrong, Banks is great. Banks is fast. Banks can run himself open. Burnham makes all the tough catches, makes every single play you need him to. Braylon Addison, he can be a number one in this league. He's with Brandon Banks, makes him even better because it just gives him more opportunities to get open. Shaq Evans, hell of a year, and a huge piece of the puzzle there in Saskatchewan for Cody Fajardo to be able to have success this year. And Reggie Bagleton, I mean, it didn't seem to matter whether it was Bo throwing him the ball or not. He was going to put up numbers.
Let's go through all the coaching news because there has been a ton of it, and it starts with Jason Moss getting fired by the Eskimos just shortly after the Grey Cup. I can't say...
Shocking.
Yeah,
shocking.
Exactly.
I mean, who saw this one coming?
Exactly. After 4 years, it was kind of just mediocrity, really. A 39-33 record, 3-3 postseason record, 3 division final appearances. Honestly, though, it's sort of a similar record that Mike O'Shea would have had after 4 seasons with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Well, he actually had playoff
the 3-15
wins.
year. The 3-15 year did not help Mike O'Shea.
Yeah, that didn't help. That's true.
That'll bring your numbers down.
But in Edmonton, they've got this standard, this demand to win, and I get it. But now, and I guess hindsight's 2020, everybody sort of had Rick Campbell as being their guy before the season ended, before anything ever happened.
Before Devon Claybrooks got fired, I think it was the logical choice.
Yeah, and I think that was the big thing that BC did. They got ahead of the game, and almost missing the playoffs was... it's never good to miss the playoffs, but it got them a
blessing
start
in disguise. Yeah,
on getting
they're able to make the move because they knew Rick Campbell was out. They can make their move and start to align things to bring Rick Campbell in if that's what they want to do. That being said, you go back to Jason Moss and how you were saying that the Eskimos and they have the how did you word it? Not desire, but the demand
for excellence.
It doesn't help that a lot of season ticket holders that we've talked to, and a guy I dropped a shirt off to on my way up here said, the season ticket program just felt like they didn't get anything this year, like no incentives, no perks, and I know they don't have to. But it's kind of expected, as a thank you, and he just felt slighted in that way and kind of pissed off. And then with the way the season went and the way Moss handled himself the last couple of years on the side, then this year he seemed to tone it down. People were just kind of done, I think.
I think last year was probably a tougher one because hosting the Grey Cup and they don't even get a chance to play for the trophy at all. And I know the West Division is tough and yada, yada.
And I think the one thing that did save him last year was the fact that the coach's cap was coming in, and nobody really knew what was going to happen with retained salaries and everything yet.
Yeah, and he still had a couple of years left that the Eskimos would have to eat, and that would really bring them back when it comes to that cap. And let's face it, they never beat a playoff team until the Alouettes in a team above 500 until the Alouettes in the East semifinal, and they really got worked by Hamilton in the East final. But now we're kind of sitting here wondering, what's Edmonton going to do? And there's a lot of names being thrown around that are getting interviews. They had interviews with BC, now Ottawa, now Edmonton. I guess Tommy Condell was a bit of a buzzy name out of Hamilton, but he has declined interviews from Ottawa and Edmonton. He wants to stay in Hamilton. Paul LaPolice seems to be the guy that has all the leverage in the world. He can stay in Winnipeg or he can go to Ottawa or Edmonton. I feel like it's all up to him, really.
And, I mean, he is the guy that has been, the coach in waiting, it seems, forever. I know he got his chance. But, you see it in a lot of other sports that guys will come in and, either coach the junior, or not the junior team, but like the minor league affiliate, or they'll come onto the major league staff as an assistant, but everybody knows what's happening. I'm not saying that's what's happening in Winnipeg, but, I mean, when you look at it, LaPolice is probably the best option for a head coaching job when it comes to the assistants around the league. Maybe Noel Thorpe, but, I mean, he's just that name that keeps getting thrown out there, which makes you think there's some momentum to it.
So Lapo was the guy in Winnipeg in 2010. They had a rough year, 4-14, but they lost all sorts of close games that year. Like, it was just stupid. And then the very next year, they went to the Grey Cup, lost to the Lions in BC, and then he coaches for 8 games in 2012. He's 2-6, and he ends up getting fired. And I think a lot of Bomber fans would have liked him to still be the guy. At the end of the day, it worked out because they got Mike O'Shea out of the deal, those rough years in 12, 13 for the Bombers there, and it was a long time coming. Now they've got a Grey Cup title here, but it still needs to be said, Mike O'Shea does not have a contract, and he said that he wants to stay, and he really looks like he truly means that he wants to stay. But
I think 100%. But if somebody comes knocking with an offer he can't refuse, I mean, you have to look at it.
You have to at least talk to them. But I sort of get the feeling that Edmonton might go off the board a little bit. I don't know why. They're going to need an entirely new staff. The only one under contract is Philip Lawley for next year.
Man,
I don't think that's the best situation.
No, and we talk about it, continuity.
Yeah.
Coaching staff, front office, it breeds success, and it paid off in spades this year in Winnipeg.
It took a while, but it paid off.
It took a while, but it and people will, teams will win with new coaches and all that stuff. It does happen, but throughout a year and playoffs and when you have to win, I'd rather have the best team top to bottom than just have a flash in a pan.
Yeah, absolutely. As for the Montreal Alouettes, they got it done. They signed Kahari Jones to a 3-year extension, and I just get this magical feeling with Kahari that he could have any team in front of him, and he would bring them together and make them a competitive team. Because the crap that was thrown at him at the beginning of the year, and they polished a turd, and they made this season a success.
I haven't heard polished a turd in so long.
But now they have to hire a GM that's okay with Kahari. Lots of time the general manager wants their guy.
I think that's going to be part of the interview process. If I don't want to say if ownership's smart, if the league is smart, because they will obviously have a hand in finding a GM for the Owls, unless this sale goes through and it's already a done deal and they're just keeping it under wraps that well, which I don't believe is happening. It has to be Kahari's the guy for the next 3 years, unless they go 1-17, which I don't foresee happening. But this team needs something that it can grasp onto, and the fan base does. Where Kahari's going to be there, they're going to build this thing back up. I don't want to say to what it was, because I don't think Anthony Calvillo and Trestman and Pop. I mean that's really hard to match. But they have to build this thing back up to where they're perennial contenders and they're in the playoffs and winning football games on a regular basis, and not, didn't work this time, on to the next, and 1 year later on to the next, and 1 year later, 2 years later on to the next. It's gonna, whoever the GM is, I don't want to say they're going to be stuck with Kahari Jones, but they're going to have to be okay with having Kahari Jones before they get hired. It can't be you just bring a guy in because he's a good GM and let him do whatever he wants.
Well, it looks like the league has brought in Wally Buono as a consultant with the team, and he's going to have a hand in hiring the general manager of the Montreal Alouettes. And I don't know if there's many better names than the Godfather to help you out with that. They have asked the Bombers for permission to interview Danny McManus for the GM spot. I've also seen names thrown around like Neil McAvoy. He's the director of football ops in BC. G. Roy Simon, Danny Machocha, Eric Tillman. I feel like that one, I think we need some new blood in here, and that one is just kind of the safe, boring move that the Owls could make, and I hope they don't.
Yeah. And in sports, it's always recycled.
Yeah.
Whether it's coaches, GMs,
league.
Everything. It's every league. But at some point, new blood does have to come in. And whether it's, as an assistant position where they work their way up or whatever, it would be nice to go a little off the board, I think. I think just because, to get a fresh face, but at the same time, the safe bet is the safe bet for a reason.
And I think there was some good new blood this year with Kahari Jones and Orlando Steinauer. I think they did okay there. As for the Ticats, Jeff Reinbold has signed an extension to stay on as the team's special teams coordinator, but they did lose Dennis McKnight, the offensive line coach, to the XFL. And speaking of the XFL, they denied the Eskimos permission to talk to Jamie Elizondo. And I read a really interesting article by Jerry Motajong. I'm probably butchering that name from the...
No, that's really good.
From the Edmonton Sun, who basically talked about how these teams, especially last offseason, were getting denied permission to talk to guys, even if it was a job for them to advance their position, advance their careers. But Rick Campbell quits in Ottawa. Did they find a loophole there to bring him to BC? I'm not saying that there was tampering or anything like that, but he quits his job and the Lions are basically able to get a head start on bringing him to Vancouver.
Now, I know the rule is I don't think you can sign coaches until after Grey Cup.
Well, you can't really announce it anyway.
Or you can't announce it, but I mean, you could. It's like the free agency window in the NHL, or you can't discuss money in these 5 days.
Yeah.
Everybody discusses money. Who are you kidding when a deal comes through at 12:01?
Yeah, I know. It happens in the CFL too.
Right? Let's just get rid of the tampering rules because it's pointless.
Yeah, let them tamper.
But, yeah, it'll make it better.
I like it. Free for all.
Like, tamper, piss the other team off. Now we have a rivalry. Let's go.
I'm all in for that.
Yeah.
Now, Calgary could look like a completely different team next year.
Again.
Well, yeah, especially off the field. They're going to lose at least two of their position coaches. Well, maybe anyway. Receivers coach Pete Costanza will not return after being with the team for 12 years. 12 years. He wants to advance, be a head coach or be an offensive coordinator somewhere, so he's not in Calgary anymore. But Ryan Dinwiddie and Mark Killam have been really buzzy names that both had interviews in Ottawa, but so did Stephen McAdoo. Had an interview in Ottawa. It looks like the Red Blacks...
Well, they don't have a running back, so, that would be the perfect spot for McAdoo.
The Red Blacks are talking to a lot of people. They're exhausting all of their resources. I think it might be one of the Calgary guys. I think it might be Dinwiddie.
Which, that would be a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
At the same time, not a lot to work with in Ottawa.
Yeah, I know.
Not the best opportunity, but an opportunity nonetheless. And experience does people good. The only thing I worry about is you look at in the NFL, Matt Patricia leaves New England. Everybody praises him as a DC. He's part of the Bill Belichick coaching tree. Can't quite cut it as a head coach. and special teams and Ryan Dinwiddie is the quarterback's coach, right?
Yeah.
That's a big step up. And I know Dickinson did it from special teams, so I would be leaning towards Killam more, because he deals with not just one position group. But I mean, there's nothing saying that Ryan Dinwiddie couldn't do it. But I mean, for these guys to finally get chances, like we've seen them on, at least Killam, we've seen him on the sideline as an assistant for years. And now he's finally getting his chance.
I can't see it going any better than Devon Claybrooks did in BC, right?
No, and it's not, and I don't think it'll be all, like, let's say for sake of argument, it's Mark Killam that gets the job, and they do what BC did. I'm not going to blame Mark Killam. I mean,
exactly.
Ottawa doesn't have much, like, their depth is so thin, it's transparent at this point. But like it's not the best opportunity to go into. But I mean, if they can get him in there, get him the experience, and don't fire him after 1 year, whether that's Killam, Dinwiddie, or even or whoever interviews and gets that job, they're going to have a lot of work to do. But it's still a head coaching job in a professional sports league.
They need to spend money on a quarterback in free agency no matter what.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they do.
And the Stephen McAdoo interviewing in Ottawa has kind of set off a little bit of a ripple effect because the Riders have now talked to Jason Moss about possibly being their OC next year. So have the BC Lions. And I think a lot of us can agree Jason Moss is a hell of an offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think as an OC, he's perfect. I don't want to harp on him or anything, but he looks like a little overwhelmed at times when he's coaching, when he's the head coach. I mean, we bring it up a lot. It's like the field goal, like that joke will never get old on Twitter, right?
Nope.
Right? It's like Winnipeg not having an airport. So. Oh man, Mike's gonna hate that. But we saw the success he had with Trevor Harris.
Yeah.
In Ottawa, when they were in Ottawa together, and so when Harris showed up in Edmonton, we all kind of thought, well, there's a chance here. It didn't quite pan out. We saw what he was able to do with Mike Riley as the head coach. I think that BC is the only logical option for him. I think that the chemistry that he can have with Mike Riley can turn that team around. That being said, he is an upgrade over McAdoo 100% at the OC position. So
if they make that happen in BC, all of a sudden things are pretty exciting there.
All of a sudden, the West is even more of a crapshoot than it was before. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It is every single year. And as for Winnipeg, if Lapo moves on and takes a job in Ottawa or Edmonton, looks like Buck Pierce could be the OC. Farhan Lalji expecting him to move up and make that job. But at the same time, that is like what we saw in Saskatchewan. I think they were kind of forced to stick with Craig Dickinson, but continuity, a guy that the players are already familiar with on that staff. I think you want a guy like Lapo because, well, and who knows if Richie Hull is still going to be coaching next year. But those game plans in the playoffs from that coaching staff were bang on, 100% perfect all the way through the playoffs.
And they knew what they had at the quarterback position, and they ran that system to a T.
Yeah, it was impressive.
To go on the road and allow 15, 14, and then 13 points in the Grey Cup? Come on.
Yeah.
On the defensive side of the ball. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, just so impressive with the Bomber. They won it the hard way, and there's no denying that. This episode of Two and Out is brought to you by ATB Financial, and ATB understands that sometimes We all need a boost. That's why they started ATB Booster, a crowdfunding platform for small businesses. So if you have an idea and want to test it with a crowd, Booster can help you raise funds to grow and expand into the community. Whether you're a cafe in need of a new espresso machine or a boutique wanting to open a new location, check out ATB Booster to find out more. atbbooster.ca, ATB Booster, and there's no E in booster.ca to find out more. Okay, this is going to be another crazy offseason when it comes to free agency because of the 1-year deal. Now, Derek Dennis has been talking on Twitter, and I get what he's saying, that all of these contracts pretty much are 1-year deals anyway, because teams cut guys whenever they want and don't owe them a single thing. So as soon as if that ever gets fixed, I think this is what we are going to be with for the foreseeable future. But the crazy thing here is, and there's been lots of talk about it, this is the year, or this is the month, when we start hearing guys working out in the NFL. Last year, we were hearing from Bo Mitchell nonstop. What team's he working out with this week? This offseason, we're hearing from guys like Nate Hawley, Kwaku Boateng, Braylon Addison. I think he's got to work out with the Vikings. Trey Roberson, 10 teams were interested in him. Dakota Shepley, Trey Rutherford, all guys that could get NFL shots, but the NFL right now has not approved CFL players with contracts to work out despite the CFL opening up that NFL window again. The way we saw things go during the CBA stuff, I wouldn't hold it past the league that they knew that this was going to happen. You know what I mean?
That's completely possible.
Yeah.
I understand where the NFL is coming from. You look at the Ricky Williams situation, what started the whole thing where if a guy is suspended, he can't play in the CFL if he's suspended in the NFL. And now the NFL is looking at it like, well, they're signed to deals. Unless they're released, we can't be poaching players. And I don't know if that's what they're thinking. If I'm the NFL and another league has a window where their players are allowed to try out, I don't know why you're turning guys away.
Yeah.
But it does help with, players sticking around. Because, the CFL can do all they want and give them the NFL window, but if the NFL is going to block their teams, it's not on the CFL.
But there were guys,
right?
Like teams were able to sign guys to 3-year deals because of the NFL window. And now...
Right. But I mean, that's but now to do that, now the NFL is the one blocking them. It's not like they can blame the CFL for not giving them an opportunity.
Right. I could see why the players would be a bit choked at what's happening right now. Apparently, the NFL and the CFL are in discussions to try and figure this out. We'll see how this all goes. I know there's already been workouts that have been postponed and things like that. But if you look at the free agent list, it is just a mile long, and there's
which I mean is no surprise. It's been like that the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, there's no point in worrying about it if you're a fan of a team yet, because I'm going to say probably 75% of these guys are going to get re-signed anyway.
Yeah.
But it's a situation looking at anyway. Let's go with some of the guys that have been re-signed. BC locking up that running game by re-signing both John White and Brandon Rutley, which kind of surprised me a little bit. But John White had his first 1,000-yard season last year, and they were really able to run the ball once they made the switch at offensive line coach. That's a pretty good dual attack heading into 2020, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think, teams now more than ever are realizing that you can't just run one guy into the ground.
Yeah.
Unless it's an Andrew Harris. We thought William Powell, but McAdoo refused to give him the ball more than 11 times in a night. But having a little bit of a platoon situation at running back, and I mean Rutley can play special teams as well. It keeps your guys fresh. Lessens the chance of injury. Especially when they have two kind of different running styles, it can really throw the defense for a loop as well.
As speaking of running backs, the Argos have released James Wilder Jr. after he requested his release. He then went on the Rod Peterson show and basically talked trash about Corey Chamberlain and Jacques Chapdelaine. He was set to be a free agent in February anyway, so he just gets a jump start on talking to other teams or NFL workouts or whatever he has going on. But his stock, I think, is probably dropped since winning the Grey Cup in 2017, coming onto the scene as a rookie and just looking awesome. And then the past 2 seasons, he hasn't looked like the same guy. The team hasn't been the best either, but I don't know what his prospects looking like. Maybe he goes to NXT and makes his debut in a couple months.
Oh, yeah, the storyline between him and Finn Balor should be real good.
Man, him and the Velveteen Dream, I don't know what his charisma is like, but I think he'd make a hell of a wrestler.
Until things got a little hard and he just quit. Again.
Where is James Wilder Jr. in 2020?
Oh.
Calgary might need a running back.
Is Stampede Wrestling still a thing?
I think it actually is on a really small scale.
Or maybe he'll be in RCW.
Oh, man, wrestling in Waseca, Saskatchewan.
Can we not talk about that?
Man, if he could do the Stampede Wrestling and play for the Stampeders, I mean, there's some pretty good income there.
Is there?
Wow.
It's Stampede Wrestling. Let's be real. Would he be the guy that actually gets the entrance, or would he be the guy that when you come back from commercial break, he's already in the ring?
I think he would get an entrance. But Stampede Wrestling now, maybe you're making $60 on a Saturday night or something.
I guess Kane would get an entrance, but you always knew if he was going to win or lose whether or not his pyro went off.
Sticking with the Argos, they have signed Chandler Worthy and Bear Woods to extensions. I think Bear Woods is one that's circumventing the coach's cap a little bit.
No. How dare you?
So they'll just put him on the 6th game, and then he'll sort of coach the linebackers next year.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like this year, honestly.
Well, I'm not gonna accuse anybody of anything.
Oh, really? I'm sure I could just scan back on this episode and find something.
You probably could.
Never mind historically.
And I will deny.
Hey, by the way, I got to ask you. It's been a rough couple of weeks for hockey coaches. You used to be a coach. Are you looking over your shoulder?
Not one bit.
Not one bit? You're good?
No, because all the kids are bigger than me, so I was the one that got hit and abused. I got ear-holed with a puck at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done for the day.
You're going to be the one that turns it around on the players.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, Calgary re-signs William Longley and Derek Wigan, who was big on the defensive line this year. But I think the big change is Rob Maver announcing his retirement from football after a decade with the Stampeders, and maybe the best to do it over the past decade as well. 2-time Grey Cup champion Rob Maver. Hell of a career.
Probably should have been special teams player this year.
You know what? I would not.
Because apparently, people in Saskatchewan have a completely different definition of coffin corner than every other fan base.
Who leads the league in botched coffin corner punts?
Oh, then it's definitely John Ryan. Who leads the league in terrible politicians for brother-in-laws? Definitely John Ryan.
I knew you were going to go there.
I've held it in all year.
You have. But now the off-season, there are no rules or what?
Yeah, it's just no holds barred, man. Top rope.
Maver is a good guy on the field and off the field, obviously. It's going to be sad not to have him in the CFL anymore. But, man, he lost his job place kicking and then just took that punting job to the next level. And him and Rene Paredes, the best kicking duo we've seen in the league for a long time, I think.
I have no argument against that. I think that, yeah, they're probably they'd be top 3 all time, I think.
So the Stamps got to look for another reliable punter for the foreseeable future anyway.
John Ryan's a free agent.
Saskatchewan has re-signed Mac Henry on the D-line and Luches Purifoy, who had a hell of a year in 2019, and I'm assuming BC Lions fans and Red Blacks fans, didn't he last like 8 games in Ottawa?
Yeah.
They're thinking, what?
Yeah.
What did we miss?
Maybe Marcel Desjardins is the problem.
Now, everything I bring up, you're just throwing another group under the bus. Hey,
these are the people that wanted Dominique Davis to be the starter, okay?
How did I know?
They deserve everything they're getting right now. Until January 1st we'll reset and we'll be all good. But until then.
Okay, so January 1st, you're going to stop with the Dom Davis stuff?
Maybe.
Okay. You heard it here first. Let's
maybe. I will allegedly stop.
Okay. You'll stop like a mother. Shop like a mother. In 2 weeks, we'll do one more show, the final one of 2019. What? If there's nothing to talk about, then I guess we can just talk about turkey.
I guess.
I'm assuming there will be more dominoes in place as far as the Eskimos and the Red Blacks go in a couple of weeks. So we'll come back and we'll keep going with the off-season news then.
Speaking of dominoes, I never got to hear Domino by the Kiss cover band because I got kicked out. And then we were walking past Spirit of Edmonton on the Saturday at like 12:30 and we didn't go in.
What did we do on Saturday again? Oh, we just took it real easy.
We went and sat in the food hall for 3 hours.
Oh, Spalumbos. I got to get back to Calgary for that meatball sub again. That was awesome. We are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Check out the Tight Ends podcast with Vanda. They actually just celebrated their 100th episode. They talk all about sports. And she claims she doesn't know much about football, but she knows a tight end when she sees one. And Ty and I, we are both comfortable enough to admit that we know a tight end when we see one too. I do not have a tight end. I will fully admit that now.
When I played hockey, maybe.
Did you? You had hockey butt.
Well, I mean, even until I moved out and started eating pierogi and kubasau 3 times a week or 4 times a week. And undid all the hard work that I had put in.
By the way, I probably had about 2 pounds of pierogies last week for supper one day. Oh.
Dude, I have eaten nothing but Burger King and KFC since I got back to work. And guess what?
You lost weight?
I've lost weight.
What?
Yep.
Is it all the sodium or what?
I think I'm back down to what I was before. I kind of started slacking off on Grey Cup Fit Up. It's I gained 3 pounds in the last 2 weeks before we went to Grey Cup, and then I gained 1.5 pounds at Grey Cup, and now I'm just getting back down to what I was before I quit.
So what are you going to do in the off season as far as fitness goes?
I'll start walking again eventually. I'm not going to walk around Grand Prairie in the dark. That's not going to happen.
And now there's like 4 hours of sunlight a day, so...
Yeah, it's great because that means we only got 4 hours of work.
Nice.
I'll start doing my yoga and stuff again here probably tomorrow because we had to record. I will still be eating
this
Burger King.
45 minutes of your day on not doing yoga.
I will still be eating Burger King though because I don't want to go grocery shopping.
Fair enough. Check out the Tight Ends podcast, and you just know why the boys on 2 and Out do not have tight ends. They are part of the Alberta Podcast Network.
We're working on it.
Powered by ATB, and if you need tickets for anything, I know it's the CFL off season, but NHL, there's a new Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, Joan Jett tour south of the border. Maybe there's going to be tickets.
Joan Jett's on that tour?
What? Yeah, they added her today.
Oh, she's not going to come up here, is she?
There's no Canadian dates for that.
Yet.
So that's where I was going with this. If you see American dates, seatgiant.ca. They're in Canadian dollars. Promo code APN. You'll save 5% and support the Alberta Podcast Network in the process. So if you got any more hot takes, save them for a couple weeks. Okay, Ty?
I can probably come up with a couple.
Okay, cool. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever pods are cast, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.